Okay, so now Macbeth has entered the cave where he is meeting with the witches this time. And one thing we'll notice right away is that Macbeth is a different creature than he was when he first met the witches. You might recall in Act 1, Scene 3, when he first met the witches, he was timid and afraid. He didn't even speak to them for a very long time, and he let Banquo do the speaking. But now he walks in and he begins talking to them before they even say a thing. How now, you secret black and midnight hags, what is it you do? And then he demands them, I conjure you, he says, that by that which you profess, however you come to know it, answer me. So he's being very demanding this time. And he goes through this quick little monologue where he says, no matter what happens, he says, you better answer me, though you might untie the winds, though you might toss down the trees and topple castles on people's heads, you better answer me, even till destruction sicken. So this is him saying again that all things will bend to his will. And then they will begin to bring forth those artificial sprites that by the strength of their illusion will draw him onto his confusion, just like Hecate said in Act 3, Scene 5.
How now, you secret black and midnight hags, what is't you do?
A deed without a name.
I conjure you, by that which you profess, howe'er you come to know it, answer me. Though you untie the winds and let them fight against the churches, though the yeasty waves confound and swallow navigation up, though bladed corn be lodged, and trees blown down, though castles topple on their warders' heads, though palaces and pyramids do slope their heads to their foundations, though the treasure of nature's germains tumble altogether, even till destruction sicken, answer me to what I ask you.
Speak.
Demand.
We'll answer.
Say if thou hadst rather hear it from our mouths or from our masters.
Call 'em. Let me see 'em.
Pour in sow's blood that hath eaten her 9 furrow. Grease that's sweaten from the murderer's gibbet, throw into the flame.
Come high or low, thyself and office deftly show.
Tell me, thou unknown power.
He knows thy thought. Hear his speech, but say thou not.
Macbeth, 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 beware Macduff. Beware the Thane of Fife. Dismiss me. Enough. Whate'er thou art for thy good caution. Thanks. Thou'st heard my fear aright. But one word more.
He will not be commanded. Here's another more potent than the first. Before we meet the second apparition. So, first of all, Macbeth has this demand. The witches throw in some extra ingredients. Now they pour in a sow's blood that hath eaten her 9 furrow, a female pig who ate her babies. Ew. Then they call forth the first apparition. An apparition is a spirit, and we need to take note of the shape that each one of these is in. So first you have an armed head, like a head wearing a helmet, wearing some armor. And that apparition tells him to beware Macduff. So that is warning number 1. That is prediction number 1. Beware Macduff. Macbeth's response to that is, for thy good caution, thanks. Thou hast harped my fear aright. He says, I was already afraid of Macduff. I was already concerned about that guy. You're just making it clear that I should be. Now the second apparition shows up in the form of a bloody child. Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth,
Had I 3 ears, I'd hear thee.
be bloody bold and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth.
Then live Macduff. What need I fear of thee? But yet I'll make assurance double sure, and take a bond of fate. Thou shalt not live, that I may tell pale-hearted fear it lies and sleep in spite of thunder.
So the second warning is that none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. So no one born of a woman shall harm Macbeth. Isn't everybody born of a woman? That's what Macbeth assumes. He says, well, then live Macduff. Why need I fear thee? Why do I have to worry about Macduff if no one can hurt me that was born of a woman? Now for the third and final prediction.
What is this that rises like the issue of a king, and wears upon his baby brow the round and top of sovereignty?
Listen, but speak not to it.
Be lion-mettled, proud and take no care who chafes, who frets, or where conspirers are. Macbeth shall never vanquished be, until great Burnham Wood, to high Dunsinane Hill, shall come against him.
That will never be. Who can impress the forest, bid the tree unfix his earthbound roots? Sweet boatman's good. Rebellious dead, rise never till the wood of Burnham rise, and our high-placed Macbeth shall live the lease of nature, pay his breath to time and mortal custom.
All right, so the final prediction is a bit of a riddle. It's hard to break down. So take note of this. First of all, the child is wearing a crown and holding a tree in his hand, sometimes interpreted to be a branch. And he says, Macbeth shall never vanquished be until great Burnham Wood, the forest, to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him. So what this is saying is that Macbeth will never be vanquished, means defeated, until the forest travels to the castle. And so the forest, you will need to know, is called Burnham Wood. And his castle is on Dunsinane Hill. And so when you hear those words, Burnham and Dunsinane, that's what they're talking about, the castle and the forest. And so Macbeth says, well, that will never be. Who can make the forest move? Who can get the trees to unfix their roots? And so he decides these are sweet bodements. This is all good news. Now Macbeth will get to live out the lease of nature. I am clearly going to be king for as long as I live, and I will live out the lease of time and die a natural death, because no one born of a woman can hurt me, and I will never be defeated until the forest moves, which means never. But he cannot rest there. He still has one more thing that he wants to ask.
Yet my heart throbs to know one thing. Tell me, if your art can tell so much, shall Banquo's issue ever reign in this kingdom?
Seek to know no more.
I will be satisfied. Deny me this, and an eternal curse fall on you. Let me know. Why sinks that cauldron? And what noise is this?
Show his eyes and grieve his heart. Come like shadows, so depart.
So you see in the stage directions here that a list of 8 kings is walking by him.
And I here, thou other gold-bound brow is like the first, a third is like the former. Filthy hags, why do you show me this? A fourth. Start eyes. What? Will the line stretch out to the crack of doom? Another yet. A seventh. I'll see no more. And yet the eighth appears, who bears a glass which shows me many more. And some I see that twofold balls and treble sceptres carry. Ah, horrible sight. Now I see 'tis true. For the blood-bolted Banquo smiles upon me and points at them for his. What? Is this so?
Aye, sir, all this is so. But why stands Macbeth thus amazedly? Come, sisters, cheer me up his sprites, and show the best of our delights. I'll charm the air to give a sound, while you perform your antic round, that this great king may kindly say, our duties did his welcome pay.
Where are they? Gone. Let this pernicious hour stand I accursed in the calendar. Come in without ado.
Right, before he invites Lennox in, who has apparently been waiting outside the cave the whole time, let's just look back at this last series of apparitions where they all stand and they all look like Banquo. They're all holding, it says, twofold balls and treble scepters, showing that they rule over more than one kingdom, which, in King James's case would have been accurate, having descended from Scotland, but then to rule in England. So this is again a nod to King James, as we mentioned last week. And it also just adds to Macbeth's consternation. He says, let this pernicious hour stand accursed. He's very upset with that turnabout. Even though he had just said everything they told him was good news, he couldn't help but ask about Banquo. So now he calls Lennox in, and Lennox has some news. That is what leads Macbeth to the statements that we went over in warm-ups today.
What's your grace's will?
So are you the weird sisters?
No, my lord.
Came they not by you?
No, indeed, my lord.
Infected by the air whereon they ride, and damned all those that trust them. I did hear the galloping of horse. Who was't came by?
'Tis 2 or 3, my lord, that bring you word. Macduff is fled to England.
Fled to England.
Aye, my good lord.
Time, thou anticipatest my dread exploits. The flighty purpose never is o'ertook, unless the deed go with it. From this moment, the very firstlings of my heart shall be the firstlings of my hand. And even now, to crown my thoughts with acts, be it thought and done. The castle of Macduff I will surprise, seize upon Fife, give to the edge of the sword his wife, his babes, and all unfortunate souls that trace him in his line. No boasting like a fool. This deed I'll do before this purpose cool. But no more sights. Where are these gentlemen? Come, bring me where they are.
So now Macbeth has vowed not only for the firstlings of his heart to be the firstlings of his hand, but in particular, since Macduff has fled to England and Macbeth cannot get him there, he says, well, since I can't get Macduff, I will punish him by attacking his castle and killing his wife, his children, and anybody else who happens to be there.